Hello guys, we are going to talk about a crime drama film called Papillon from 2017. A lot of interesting things are waiting for you. The film begins with a window opening in the iron prison door, from which the main character, the prisoner Henri, nicknamed Papillon, looks out. The story moves to Paris in 1931. The Papillon, wearing an expensive suit, breaks into a safe in someone else's apartment and then goes down the gutter to a cabaret. He has a meeting with the owner of the establishment, who enthusiastically demonstrates how his thugs beat up some unfortunate man. According to the owner, this man reported him to the police. Having taken the thief's loot in the form of diamonds, the boss hints that Henri will face an even worse fate if he tries to hide more than he should. Later, Papillon waits in an alley for his girlfriend, a skilled thief, to finish her shift. He presents her with a necklace, but the jewelry catches the eye of one of the criminal's henchmen. After a stormy night, the landlord knocks on Henri and his girlfriend's apartment. Unsuspecting, Henri opens the door, and at that moment the gendarmes burst in, accusing him of murdering a local pimp, the same informer who had been beaten the day before. Saying goodbye to his beloved, Papillon promises to escape and return to her. In the cell, he meets the robber Julot. His new friend advises him to find money, without which it is impossible to organize a breakout. During the medical examination, Julot shows Henri a man named Louis, a counterfeiter who definitely has money. After the examination, the prisoners are informed that they will be deported to French Guiana, a colony in South America, where they will serve their sentence for the rest of their lives, doing hard labor for the benefit of the motherland. On the ship, Henri offers Louis his protection in exchange for money to escape. Louis refuses, but that same night he witnesses a huge fat man murdering his cabin mate for the sake of the money he has hidden. Realizing that he could be next, the counterfeiter accepts Henri's offer. The next night, a fat man with a knife tries to kill Louis, but Henri defends him. A fight breaks out, which the guards stop by letting hot steam into the hold. Henri's bloody hands testify to his involvement in the fight, for which he is punished by being shackled. During the disembarkation, Julot falls down the stairs and injures his leg, which is why he is sent to the infirmary. The others are taken to meet the prison commander. The commandant frankly admits that he does not mind escape attempts. Those who are not shot immediately will be put in solitary confinement for 2 years, and for a second attempt, for 5 years. If someone manages to escape, the sea around them is teeming with sharks. And if someone kills someone, they will face the worst fate. Despite the warnings, Henri, a true rebel, makes a plan to escape. First, he arranges to get into the infirmary, but he needs money for that. Louis takes the money out of the capsule. After a voluntary contribution, Louis and Henri are enrolled as medics. The plan seems to have worked, but Louis is recognized by the deputy commandant, who has personal scores with the counterfeiter. They are both sent to hard labor. There, they meet the convict Cellier and almost lose their money. Henri finds the capsule with the money and returns it to Louis, not so much out of friendship as out of unwillingness to keep the money himself. At a halt, Henri and Cellier discuss the possibility of escape. As an experienced prisoner, Cellier has some ideas, but he needs money for a boat. Their conversation is interrupted by a quarrel. A thug wants to take Cellier's money. The Papillon intervenes, but the convoy stops the mess with a warning shot in the air. On the way back, the guards pick up a local carrier and one of the women. The Papillon tries to negotiate with the carrier to escape, but he almost turns him in by demanding a higher price. Eventually, the carrier agrees to help, but only 3 days before the boat leaves the island. Later, during the shower, a group of prisoners tries to redistribute the material values. However, thanks to brute physical strength, luck, and an educational fight, Henri manages to maintain his status. However, this incident makes Louis think that he won't last long here, and asks Henri to take him out with him. The next day, the prisoners are gathered in the square for execution. Someone tried to escape by stabbing several guards. Julot was the one sentenced to death. Henri rises from his seat, recognizing his comrade. After the execution, the commandant orders Henri and another prisoner to clean up the body. Henri chooses Louis, who does not like it at all. As they carry the body, Louis becomes ill and falls down, exhausted. They begin to beat him with a whip, which makes Henri furious. He hits the guard on the head with a stone and prepares to escape. The exhausted Louis, who has lost his glasses and cannot even stand, has to be left behind. Henri jumps into the river to the whistle of bullets fired by the guards. By nightfall, Henri reaches the carrier's boat. He has no money, but he promises to pay later. In response, the carrier laughs, and his friends come out of the darkness with guns. They have an agreement with the commandant to catch fugitives, which pays better than the convicts can offer. Henri is locked up in solitary confinement for 2 years, where he is forbidden to break the silence. He is periodically beaten and fed so poorly that he barely survives. But one day, he finds half a coconut in a bucket of water and a note with a promise that he will be fed better from now on. The enhanced rations help Henri to restore his spirit. He starts exercising to keep fit. However, one day the guards suspect something is wrong, check the bucket, and find a coconut. After that, the commandant personally comes to find out who is feeding Henri. The Papillon remains silent, even when his rations are cut in half and left in the dark. Despite the hunger and loneliness, Henri does not give up, although he is plagued by hallucinations and memories of the past. 2 years later, he is transferred from the punishment cell to the infirmary, where he successfully pretends to be insane. During this time, Louis manages to become a clerk and gain some freedom among the prisoners. He visits a friend in the infirmary, and the friend tells him that he has not given up on the idea of escape. Louis has developed a new plan himself. In a few days, a movie screening is to be organized for important guests. The commandant will increase security, but it will be mostly concentrated near the guests, not around the perimeter. In addition, the noise from the movie will hide the sounds of the escape. Henri carefully plans everything. He fakes seizures to get sedatives, which he then postpones, and arranges for an orderly to distract him at the right time. The final touch is a meeting with Cellier, who cut his arm to get to the infirmary. He can still get a boat, but he needs money for that. Louis has to give him almost everything he has left. On the appointed day, Louis, acting as a waiter, adds a sedative to the vodka he hands to the guards, supposedly as a gift from the commandant. At this time, the companion distracts the big guard. Henri and Cellier unscrew the legs from the bed, then head to the shower room, where they stun the guard and take his keys. They go down to the ground floor, where the guards are already unconscious. The fugitives wait for Louis, but he is detained by the commandant. Suddenly, it starts to rain, the open-air movie screening is stopped, and the guests are transferred under the roof. Due to a short circuit, the lights go out, and to the sound of an automatic siren, Louis opens the door to his friends. Together, they climb the prison wall. As they jump down, the electricity turns on. Louis falls badly and breaks his leg. He is dragged in the rain to the riverbank, where the vendors are waiting for them. Armed men meet them there. The fugitives have to give the last of their money to be taken to a hidden boat. The plan succeeds, and at dawn the fugitives sail down the river to the ocean. However, the boat quickly begins to take on water. Cellier suggests that the Papillon get rid of the extra cargo, referring to one of the small satellites. Henri refuses, because they did not come all this way together for that. The situation becomes more complicated when a storm appears on the horizon. Cellier incites one of his comrades against Louis and pulls out a knife. However, the companion, who had previously been pleasing the guard, joins the fight. As a result, he is thrown overboard. A fight breaks out between Cellier and Henri, during which Cellier almost drowns Henri. A comrade, who had been sitting on the sidelines, picks up a shiv and begins to stab Cellier in the back. After that, Cellier's body is thrown overboard. The surviving fugitives are caught in a storm. In the next scene, Henri regains consciousness in a hut on an unknown island. It is unclear how they made it to land, but the locals, led by Christian missionaries, have taken them in. Henri finds Louis with a splint on his broken leg and tells him to keep going, but Louis refuses. He recalls how he warned Henri that Cellier could not be trusted, but he was not listened to. Another companion remains on the island, as he is finally popular not only with the fat jailers, but also with the beautiful women. Henri leaves the coastal camp alone. Climbing a mountain, he sees the jailer's car. Warned by a nun, he rushes back the shortcut to warn his comrades, but he is too late. Louis and the others are captured, and his companion is shot in front of Henri. Louis is shocked to the core that Henri came back for him, risking his life. Meanwhile, a thin and graying Henri is released from solitary confinement 5 years later. The commandant sends him to Devil's Island, a terrible prison on a lonely rock in the middle of the ocean, from which there is no escape. The old fortress is home to prisoners who have been rejected by society. Henri meets the aged commandant, who immediately sends him to eternal exile. Henri paints pictures on the walls and lives relatively well compared to the other prisoners. However, he still plans to escape. Henri notices the patterns of water tides while watching the ocean. He plans to make a raft out of sacks of coconuts and other scrap materials. On the day of the escape, Louis refuses. Unlike Henri, he has nowhere to go back to, and he has already managed to make a life here. The friends say goodbye. Henri launches the raft into the water and jumps in after him. Louis looks at the water but does not see his friend. He is already losing hope, takes off his glasses, and wipes away his tears. Suddenly, a joyful shout comes from below. Henri has swum out and caught hold of a homemade raft. They say goodbye to each other once again, and then the Papillon is left on the endless ocean waves. A jet passenger airliner suddenly flies overhead. The events are transferred to 1969. The aged but alive Henri flies to Paris, where he is still considered a criminal. He brings to the publishing house his notes, a memoir of his hard life in a colonial settlement, which he wrote down while he still remembered something. These notes are to be published in France, the country that wrongly sentenced him to such a life.